part of the difference with the old media, let's say, the corporate media, and the new media is that those organizations are corporations, and the people that you see are the front men for the organization.
Exactly.
They're not investigative. They're not independent investigative journalists. Now, I know you claim that that you're not a journalist, and technically that's true, but that's the roughest equivalent, because I don't know, apart from podcaster, I don't know what the definition is. So
yeah, I would. It's something like I'm trying to translate the nonsense, but that's not a
talk show host.
Yeah, I'm a talk show. I'm a talk show host. Yeah, whatever Phil Donahue was. That's what I am.
Well, that's that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing with my podcast too. They're talk shows.
But why is it then that for the last let's say starting when COVID started, like that day, all of the hoaxes that we've all been through, why is it that I didn't fall for any of them? Why is it that my track record, I get political predictions wrong all the time. I thought DeSantis could win the primary. I have no problem admitting that. I thought there was a different way the Republicans could go. And by the way, I'm thrilled with the result. I couldn't be happier. I fought for Trump and all that stuff. So putting aside political predictions, why is it that I didn't screw up why didn't I fall for all of the hoaxes? Why, when the Jussie Smollett thing came out and they said that two black guys, or that he was lynched by two guys with MAGA hats who said this is MAGA country, and it turned out to be these black brothers that he paid. Why is it that I didn't immediately fall for the hoax? Yeah, Kamala Harris immediately tweeted out that this proves we're a white supremacist nation, and I think that's still I think that tweet is still up. Why is it that MSNBC fell for every hoax? Why is it that I didn't fall for all of the COVID hoaxes? By day 15, I thought, okay, 2 weeks to stop the spread. We're done now. And now they've moved on to something else. It's not because I'm some kind of genius. Why did you not fall for all these hoaxes? Why did Rogan not really fall for all these hoaxes? And everyone, I'd say to some degree, we all got screwed up by COVID in some ways. And, I think you've even said that you got, I think I did your first interview back after your health stuff, and you said that you got vaxxed, and you thought the whole idea was now the government, if I can quote you directly, was leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah. That is what I thought. I thought, okay.
And it's interesting. I remember thinking when you said that to me on air, I thought, that's interesting, because I never thought that. I thought if I do it, they'll never leave me alone. And I think that actually turned out to be more true in some sense.
Oh, definitely. 100%. Yeah, well,
but what is it about us then?
Well, I think partly we put our finger on it with regard to the fact that you don't have a whole corporation behind you composed of people and advertisers that are all thinking the same thing and purveying the same message, right? So you can go out and scavenge for information. That's the other thing too, is the information environment that surrounds you. This is a point they made on MSNBC. I think it was the guy who runs Axios, who was the commentator. I think we're going to probably clip that into this show. He pointed out that, people who are on the cutting edge of the technological world, let's say the online media world, they're information scavengers. Like, I gather information from, I'm on X a fair bit, but I gather information from a lot of different sources. It's not an easy thing to do. And so the information pipeline that you have isn't a legacy media monolith by any stretch of the imagination. And I think a lot of these people, the charitable interpretation is, rather than being outright purveyors of falsehoods, they're in an ecosystem where it's like a monoculture. Everybody thinks the same thing.
Right. It's like a fish swimming in water that's so polluted, a tank that's so polluted that he can't see right in front of him, even though his memory's short anyway, but now he literally can't see where he's swimming. I mean, think about it. Why is it that I did a video in 2019, people can find it, saying Joe Biden has clearly the beginnings of dementia or something cognitively wrong with him? 2019. Again, I'm not a doctor. I was just watching the videos like everybody else. I watched the corn pop video.
But how much time do you spend every week looking at media information?
No, an awful lot.
Well, how much?
I mean, I would say I'm definitely within the X Twitter ecosystem a couple hours a day. So that's a pretty significant amount of time. I try not to do it on the weekends. I do my August off the grid thing, which I think also has helped me stay sane throughout this, because I get out of the hamster wheel basically, once a year for 8 years now. But the Biden cognitive issue, they lied and lied and lied, and they kept saying, "Don't see what you see," and he's still president right now.
I know, it's unbelievable.
Although something seems to have turned on, because I think he's starting to realize, man, he's got a legacy, and he can figure it out in the next 2 months. And I think his legacy, if he's smart, and I don't know what's left of him, but if Jill and whoever else is around him that has sense with them, they have an incredible opportunity right now, and I hope they'll take this. The opportunity is you have no reason to placate to the left. You were brought in because you were old Joe the moderate. You weren't crazy Bernie. You weren't Elizabeth Warren. You weren't one of the radicals. You governed like one of them. They took advantage of you. But now they clearly tried to screw you by forcing him out. He's basically said that. I mean, that's what he said on The View, that they forced him out. He thought he was going to win. So we'll find out what happened there one day, because eventually the truth will come out. But what an interesting moment he has right now. He has 2 months to say, I have no reason to play with you children anymore, and I can build a legacy. So what could my legacy be? Well, maybe Donald Trump's not Hitler. And maybe I could do a few things like, I don't know, maybe somehow winding down some portion of the Iraq war, or helping Israel win their war, getting our hostages back, the American hostages, if not the Israelis, or maybe doing something about the border, which they are doing a little more now. He has an interesting moment right now where his legacy could be, he took us to the precipice of hell. He got taken advantage of, right? They'll write about it one day. But then right there, when he had a moment, the 2 months between administrations, he did something right. And I don't think that's complete. A lot of people are saying I'm nuts for that. But if you were Joe Biden, and again, we don't know what's really in his mind or what he's capable of cognitively at this point. But wouldn't that be a pretty good ending to the story?
That would be a good ending. That would also help the Democrats get back on track.
So if it's a story,
well, and maybe we'll get lucky too. And so in the last month of the campaign, we had all these strange people aggregate around Trump, and that was a game changer as far as I was concerned. Because
that was it.
It really helped put my concerns about a Trump administration to rest. And then we had the spectacle of him turning to the podcast world. And he did that with accruing success. Like, you could see that he had some trepidation to begin with, but as he found out what that ecosystem was like, and we can forgive him for not discovering that earlier, because he is 78, I mean.
And he did do some of it, by the way. I mean, he did my show. Yeah. He did my show when he was president. Right. So he was bouncing in and out. But yes, you're totally right that he went hardcore. I'm going to sit down with the Nelk boys while they're talking about, spiked seltzer and then Rogan and everything
and with Theo Vaughn.
And Theo, which was great, which was really great.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And then, of course, the capstone was obviously Rogan. And then they tried to censor that on YouTube, right? Which was just beyond comprehension, that they mucked up the search algorithms. I just couldn't believe that.
But again, they knew they were going to get caught. And this is the thing that I'm still stuck on. I'm not stuck on that they lie, and I'm not stuck on that they put themselves in an ecosystem where the lies then become pervasive. I'm stuck on the other part. Like, you're going to Obama knows he's going to get caught. YouTube knows that they're going to get called out for the algorithmic tricks. And yet they still do it. And that shows
YouTube took down the first interview I did with RFK during the presidential election. They took it down. I thought the Democrats were screeching for months about Russian collusion and election interference, and yet you're willing to censor an actual presidential candidate with an actual 2-hour interview, and that's okay. Somehow that's okay.
It's funny you say the Democrats, and you're talking about YouTube, and that shows that shows you the connection between these things, right? So that is what drove us all together.
So that's another thing to point out too. When the Democrats are carping about not having access to this new media, it's like, well, all the YouTube censors, let's point out, are on your side, and you bloody well had Twitter too until Musk took it over.
Jordan, I don't know what year it was, 2019 maybe. There was a cover story on Sunday New York Times with me, you, Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman, I think Tim Pool, a couple other people, that we were the YouTube leaders of the alt-right, and they did an entire multi-page piece about how the YouTube algorithms were driving people to the right.
Yeah.
Think how absolutely bananas that is.
Right.
Now in retrospect, they had the entire machine. They used it against all of us while telling us that we were the ones using them, in essence. Mm-hmm. And I guess they got their comeuppance, and that's the beautiful part of this.
Yeah, well, thank God for free speech. That's for sure. Yeah.
That's why we're happy to have you in America, because it's not going so well up in your country.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. The liberals up there,